Anyone involved in a company that sells products needs to know prompt engineering for AI in order to dominate in 2025. In this video, I'll discuss the training data that was used to create ChatGPT. I'll give an overview of what prompt engineering is, and I'll explain all the ways that I personally structure prompts to get the most out of an AI for my clothing brand, so I can get way more done in less time with less people, so my brand can make more money, I can sell more products, and reach a wider audience. My name is Chris Drago. I've been running a brand called Pathos of Things for about 5 years now. And I make videos on YouTube documenting my process so I get better every day at being a creative director and brand owner. I've also worked for 3 different digital marketing agencies over the last decade, and I'm extremely passionate about technology and AI tools. Before I dive into the main contents of today's video, I highly suggest that you click the link in the description to download this whiteboard. It'll be much easier for you to understand the information if you're following along with me. In fact, I won't just send this document, I'll actually give you access to my entire database of whiteboards, PDFs, and slides that I've used for all of my other YouTube videos as well. I'll personally email you a link to this document with a password so you can access all of my whiteboards. Link in the description. All right, so as of November 9th, 2024, these are the main OpenAI models. If you're unfamiliar with the term model, think about it like a person. GPT-4o is one model with its own abilities, functions, and training data. GPT-4o Mini is a smaller version of GPT-4o. It's extremely fast, but might not give you as much detail or go as in-depth as you'd like. Then the newest models are the O1 Preview and O1 Mini. The newest models are the most advanced models. These O1 models use something called chain of thought reasoning, where the model will take a complex concept and then break it down into lots of little pieces and then run through those step by step in order to give you the best possible output. I'll show this in real time when I open up ChatGPT and we test it on video. And then there's the advanced voice mode, which I will also test on video. I've already tested the advanced voice mode on another one of my YouTube videos where I asked the AI questions about the future of art. It was pretty interesting. I highly recommend checking that out. So what's actually happening when we send ChatGPT a message and then it replies to us? When we ask ChatGPT a question, it accesses a huge data set, otherwise known as the training data, which is a huge collection of text that the model reads to learn patterns in language. Most of ChatGPT's data comes from the Common Crawl. 60% of the data, in fact. The Common Crawl dataset consists of web page data, metadata extracts, and text extracts from over 8 years of web crawling. Basically, it scraped 8 years of whatever people were doing on the internet and then used that as the primary data source for ChatGPT. 22% of the training data comes from Web Text 2, which consists of Reddit posts that have 3 or more upvotes. 16% of the data came from 2 internet-based book collections called Books 1 and Books 2. 3% of the dataset comes from Wikipedia, and 93% of the dataset was in English. If you want to read more about ChatGPT statistics and read the official archive paper from OpenAI about the datasets, both of those links are in the document. To summarize, the AI doesn't remember any exact phrases. Instead, it recognizes the likely ways that words should appear based on patterns. It's really just a word predicting machine. In other words, the model doesn't know specific facts, but it just draws on general knowledge from the internet to respond in a way that feels natural. In addition to accessing all of that training data, ChatGPT can now search the internet directly. I figured no better way to explain than getting it straight from the source, so I enabled the search function on ChatGPT and said, explain to me the new search feature in very simple terms. So ChatGPT searched the internet, found a source directly from OpenAI. ChatGPT's new search feature allows it to access and provide up-to-date information from the internet. That means it can now answer questions about current events, live sports scores, stock prices, and other real-time data by searching the web. When you ask a question, ChatGPT retrieves the latest information and includes links to the sources it used, so you can verify the details yourself. This enhancement makes ChatGPT more reliable for inquiries that require the most recent information, which is very new and a huge game changer. This is going to compete with Google search. So if there's so much data that is available, How do we make sure that whenever we're talking to ChatGPT, we want to access the data that's relevant to us? The answer is through prompt engineering, which is the skill of designing prompts to get the most useful responses from the AI. Since large language models respond based on patterns, the way you ask something affects the answer you receive. Think of prompt engineering like directing an actor. The clearer and more specific your direction, the better performance. Or in the case of like with my brand, I like to think of it similar to directing models on how they pose and how they look to get the best possible photos. Prompt engineering is very similar, where I'm using skills to direct the AI to help me get the best possible result. So let's look at some examples of basic prompts and then juiced up prompt engineered versions. This is still going to be pretty basic. I'm not getting into anything like markdown format or structuring the data yet, but this will get you a much better idea of the basics of prompt engineering. Example 1, a very basic prompt would be to go onto ChatGPT and just type in, "Tell me about color theory." This basic prompt could lead to a general answer that might apply to any field using color theory, from graphic design to interior decorating. But I am not a graphic designer, nor am I an interior decorator. So I would need to fix the prompt, explain the basics of color theory for visual artists, including the emotional impact of warm versus cool colors in painting. The prompt engineered version clearly specifies the target audience as visual artists, guiding the model to focus on aspects of color theory most relevant to painting and fine arts. Example 2, here's a very basic prompt, asking the model what is abstract art. Asking what is abstract art is super broad, and it could lead to a simple or high-level definition. If we want to get more into the nitty-gritty details, we would need to upgrade this prompt as follows. Describe the key characteristics of abstract art and explain how artists like Wassily Kandinsky and Jackson Pollock used color and form to express emotions without representational images. By specifying the key characteristics of abstract art, the prompt encourages the model to describe unique aspects rather than giving a general overview. Example 3. A very basic prompt would be to ask how do film directors use lighting. Simply asking the model how directors use lighting could lead to a broad response, covering various uses without a focus. The prompt engineered version reads as follows. Explain how film directors use lighting to set mood and convey emotion, with examples from classic noir films and contemporary horror. The prompt engineered version directs the AI to explore how lighting affects the emotional tone of a scene specifically, making the response more relevant to creative storytelling. Example number 4. The basic prompt reads, what are some techniques in digital illustration? Which is super broad and vague and will likely lead to a general list of beginner techniques. The prompt engineered version reads, list advanced techniques in digital illustration for creating textured painterly effects, with recommendations on brush settings and layering tips for Adobe Photoshop. By specifying the advanced techniques, the AI is directed to focus on more sophisticated methods, making the answer better suited for an experienced digital artist. And for the last example, the basic prompt reads, what is storytelling in photography? Which is likely to result in a theoretical discussion of storytelling, which may lack any practical tips or substance. Instead, a better prompt would be, describe how photographers use composition, lighting, and subject placement to tell a story in a single image with examples from street photography. By highlighting techniques like lighting and composition with genre examples like street photography, this prompt encourages a response that combines theory with practice, providing way more value to photographers. Okay, so let's try some of these prompts in practice. On the left side of my screen, I have the ChatGPT app open, and on the right side of my screen, I have the Figma whiteboard that we were just looking at. This is a good way for me to demo all of the different models very quickly so you can see them in action. Let's start with GPT-4o. And we're going to use example 1. Okay, so we're going to say, tell me about color theory, and just see what happens. Okay, so now it's generating the response. So as predicted, it's led to a pretty general answer, which is not specific to any field. In fact, it actually mentions multiple fields like art, design, and marketing. This is a cool place to start if I have no clue about color in general, and I wanted to get the fundamentals. All right, now let's try the prompt engineered version with GPT-4o. Explain the basics of color theory for visual artists, including the emotional impact of warm versus cool colors in painting. And now let's see the response for this prompt. Okay, so now the response is way more specific. We still have some color wheel basics here, which we got from the output of the basic prompt, but then goes way more in depth, provides specific information about warm versus cool colors, which we included in our prompt, discusses the emotional and psychological impact, which we also included in our prompt, goes even deeper into using warm and cool colors together, explains tints, shades, and saturation, which is awesome, and then provides tips where artists can actually use this in practical application. So quite obviously, the prompt engineered version is way better, at least for my specific use case, because I want to go deeper than just getting a general overview of how color works. So let's start a new chat and change the model to GPT-4o Mini, which is the smaller and faster version of 4o. We'll use the basic prompt first. Tell me about color theory. It's moving way quicker. Wow, that was like light speed. So this response is way more concise and uses very brief bullets to get the point across. This is great if I was on my phone and out and about and I just wanted a very quick overview of something. Now let's try this model with the prompt engineered version of this prompt. Start a new chat. Still in GPT-4o Mini. Here's the prompt engineered version. Press enter, moving lightning quick again. That was like in less than a second. As we could see here, it goes into much more detail, discussing warm and cool colors specifically, because that was in our prompt. I love this response. It was insanely fast, like basically instant, and gives me just what I need to know with less words than when I used the regular 4o model. All right, so now we're going to try the O1 preview model, which is the most up-to-date and powerful model from OpenAI. For this, I'm only going to use the prompt engineered version. I think we get the point now that the prompt engineered version gives us a better output than the basic version. And this is also a good opportunity for me to highlight the COT or chain of thought reasoning that this model uses when crafting its output. All right, so I pasted the prompt back in here. Remember, we have the O1 model running. Let's press enter. Now you'll see that the model is thinking, which is new. We didn't see this before on the 4o model. If we open up this panel, we can see the thought process of this model while it goes step by step and breaks down exactly what we need. Here is the response. Before I read the response, let's look at the chain of thoughts. So first, the model thought about color theory, where it thought to itself, okay, let me see. I'm mapping out color theory for visual artists, focusing on the basics and contrasting warm and cool colors, emotional effects in painting. That was step 1. Then it took this information and fed it to step 2, understanding color dynamics. I'm working through the basics of color theory, including primary, secondary, tertiary colors and their relationships on the color wheel. I'm also exploring hue, value, saturation, and emotional impact of warm colors. Step 3 was laying the groundwork, where it applied its understanding of color theory and color dynamics and contrasted how it affects people's emotions. Then, after the model was done thinking, it gave us this output, which starts with an overview of what color theory is in visual arts, had a section all about the color wheel, color properties, color relationships and schemes, warm versus cool colors, the emotional impact in painting, the practical application in art, a conclusion, and references for further reading. So this was by far the best output out of the 3 models that we tested, because it took a complex concept and broke it into several sub-steps. O1 Mini is the smaller and faster version of O1 Preview. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to demo O1 Mini, but I highly recommend that you jump in and do it yourself on your own ChatGPT. Okay, and the last model that I want to demo today is the advanced voice mode, which we can activate by pressing this button here in the ChatGPT desktop app. For consistency's sake, I am going to use our example 1 again, but instead of typing the prompt, I'm going to speak it. And then the advanced voice assistant is going to speak back to me in real time, and we're going to have a little conversation. Okay, here we go. Hi, explain to me the basics of color theory for visual artists, including the emotional impact of warm versus cool colors in painting.
Color theory is all about how colors interact and the effects they create in art. At its core, it involves the color wheel, which shows primary colors, red, blue, yellow, secondary colors, green, orange, purple, and tertiary colors, which are blends of primary and secondary colors. Warm colors, like red, orange, and yellow, are vivid and energetic, often associated with feelings of warmth, passion, and energy. They tend to advance in a painting, making them seem closer to the viewer. Cool colors, like blue, green, and purple, are calming and soothing, often linked to feelings of tranquility, sadness, or serenity. They tend to recede in a painting, giving a sense of depth. Artists use these colors deliberately to evoke emotions and direct the viewer's eye. By balancing warm and cool colors, artists can create a sense of harmony, contrast, or focus within their work. It's a powerful tool for visual storytelling.
Let's switch the focus a little bit. Instead of applying the basics of color theory for visual artists, how can this be applied from the perspective of a fashion designer creating a new garment for an upcoming collection?
Absolutely. In fashion design, color theory plays a crucial role in creating mood, highlighting features, and expressing themes in a collection. Understanding the emotional impact of colors helps a designer choose palettes that convey the desired message. For example, a collection for spring might feature fresh, cool colors like greens and blues to evoke a sense of renewal and calm. In contrast, a fall collection might use warm tones like oranges and reds to create a cozy, inviting feel. Designers use color to flatter different skin tones and body types. Warm colors can make an outfit pop and draw attention, while cool colors can be used to create a slimming effect or to calm a busy pattern. Lastly, combining colors from opposite sides of the color wheel, complementary colors, can create striking, vibrant looks. Analogous colors, which are next to each other on the wheel, offer a more harmonious and cohesive look. By mastering color theory, fashion designers can craft garments that not only look great, but also tell a story and evoke specific emotions.
Okay, that was cool. So now when I ended the voice chat, I get a full backup of the transcript right here in the desktop app. Okay, so that was a basic overview of prompt engineering for people in brands or creative industries. In my next prompt engineering video, I'm going to cover structuring prompts, where we'll talk about markdown format, role-based prompting, injecting specific information in examples, defining the output, and more, where we'll put it all together. After that, I'll be breaking down how to use the API and the playground. We'll talk about system prompts, function calling and automations, model configuration, file search, code interpreter, and custom instructions, where I'll break down my exact personal custom instructions that I use with my personal ChatGPT account. So if any of that sounds good to you, I highly recommend smashing the like and subscribe buttons, and I'll see you in the next one. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is part 2 in my prompt engineering for brands series, where I'll be talking about structuring prompts. In episode 1, we discussed the main OpenAI models, how they were trained, and we scratched the surface about prompt engineering. In this video, I'm going to be covering specific prompting techniques that I use in my workflow and for my brand, like markdown format, role-based prompting, latent space activation, and more. Then at the end of the video, we'll put all of these different techniques together and create an awesome system prompt that we'll use in the next video, where we'll discuss the API, the OpenAI playground, custom instructions, custom GPTs, and more. Before I discuss the first prompting technique, I'm going to kindly ask that you smash the like and subscribe buttons because it helps me out so much in the algorithm. Through support from people like you, I was able to grow my channel from 0 to 1,000 subscribers in less than 6 weeks. Also, be sure to hit the link in the description to get access to my entire database of all my whiteboards, PDFs, and slides, including this one, so you can follow along with me as I go. Okay, the first prompting technique we're going to talk about today is using Markdown format. Markdown format is a way to organize text with clear headers, lists, and emphasis like bold or italics. This makes it easier for the AI to see the structure that you want it to answer or follow. It's like giving the AI model a template. Here's an example of using Markdown format to structure a prompt. One hashtag represents a heading or a main idea. So if we look at this one hashtag, we could think about all of this as one idea with supporting sub-ideas like this. So the blue bracket represents the entire main idea, which is represented by this one hashtag. And then within this main idea, we have a main sub-idea, and then there can be sub-ideas within that. So the 3 hashtags represents a sub-idea within the 2 hashtags, and 4 hashtags represents a sub-idea within the 3 hashtags, which are all a part of this one main idea. Then, as you can see, we can add an additional single hashtag to represent the next main idea with the sub-ideas clearly organized. Here's an example output of a prompt using Markdown format that ChatGPT came up with. As we could see here, the hashtags represent the topic idea, and then there are bullets with asterisks representing boldness. So anytime you see an asterisk like this, that's putting that text in bold. So the goal here is in bold, and the specific examples that are included are in bold as well. There's an awesome article that I left a link to in the document that goes deeper into Markdown format. It's called markdownguide.org. If you've used Google Docs before, you might be familiar with HTML formatting, where if you have header brackets in the document, Google Docs will actually show the heading with big text. And then the text gets smaller based on the number associated with that heading. So heading 2 is going to be smaller than heading 1. Heading 3 is going to be smaller than heading 2. This same concept can be applied to Markdown, but instead of using heading brackets like H1 or H2, we just use very simple 1 hashtag, 2 hashtag, 3 hashtag, and so on. When you use 1 hashtag, the AI sees it as big. And if you use 4 hashtags, then that would be associated with heading level 4, which is smaller and less important than heading level 1. And again, to create bold text, all you have to do is add asterisks or underscores to emphasize text to the AI, showing which text is most important in the prompt. Using this in application will make more sense towards the end of this video when we put all of these prompting techniques together. The next prompting technique is role-based prompting, where you assign a role to the AI model to help it adopt a specific tone or perspective. This will steer the model's response style, making it more aligned with the perspective or expertise that you need. For example, if you wanted the AI or ChatGPT to specialize in art history, you can use a prompt like this. You are an experienced art professor. Explain the principles of color theory in a way that's easy for new art students to understand. Then the AI will know to focus on information related to being an art professor and helping new art students. Another example, act as an expert digital marketer with over 10 years of experience working with fashion designers and small clothing brands. Let's brainstorm some Instagram ad ideas for my next clothing drop. Another example, let's simulate a scenario in which you are an expert photographer. I am an expert creative director. We are coworkers. I need help breaking down the lighting techniques used in my favorite photos. I will send you the images and then we can discuss together. This is actually a prompt that I use every week. Every week I'll sit down and do what I call a lighting study, where I load up a bunch of images from my mood board, attach them to ChatGPT, and discuss the lighting techniques together. Here's another role-based prompt where I had an idea for a short film and I wanted to have a brainstorming session about it. This is the prompt that I wrote. Act as an expert filmmaker, Hollywood producer, and creative director. I need help brainstorming concepts for a short film. I'm envisioning a mix between 1940s film noir and the Netflix show Black Mirror. The setting is Los Angeles in the future. I want to incorporate a hard-boiled detective and a femme fatale, which are 2 character tropes used in film noir. Characters are able to use a highly addictive drug that allows them to briefly glimpse versions of themselves in other realities across the multiverse. This is all I have so far. And then the response reads as follows. This is a rich and engaging concept with a lot of potentials. Let's delve into some brainstorming around your core ideas, blending the nostalgic atmosphere of 1940s film noir with the contemporary speculative narrative style of Black Mirror, all set against a futuristic Los Angeles backdrop. Here are some thoughts. Then it gave me some suggestions for a title, a narrative structure, which I actually liked. I really liked this idea of nonlinear storytelling. Incorporated the specific character tropes that I mentioned, like hard-boiled detective and femme fatale, and brainstormed visual styles like color palette and lighting. This prompt actually went on for a while, but I only included the first 4 bullet points. The next prompting technique involves including examples or scenarios. Providing an example can help narrow down the response to fit a specific context, leading to more relevant and detailed answers. For example, Imagine a fashion shoot in a dimly lit studio. Explain how you would use lighting techniques to create a moody atmosphere in the photos. That's maybe a good place to start. I wouldn't expect to get the best output from ChatGPT just from this prompt, but from here I can iterate and keep asking it questions until it knows the exact context that I need. Here's a specific prompt that I've used in the past. This was using the new O1 model with chain of thought reasoning. I said, provide a comprehensive list of different lighting techniques used in fashion photography. Examples: high key lighting, low key lighting, flat lighting, broad lighting, short lighting. Providing these examples pointed the AI in the right direction so it knew exactly what I was talking about and then could build upon these examples. I then turned this comprehensive list of lighting techniques into a YouTube video, which is currently my most popular video on my channel. And this example prompt incorporates the last two prompting techniques that we discussed as well. So this includes markdown format, role-based prompting, where we give it a very specific persona, and we include a very specific scenario around the 2024 presidential election. The prompt reads as follows. #1, main idea. Persona. You are an e-commerce expert specializing in selling products on TikTok Shop. You have extensive connections and relationships with peers in the US and in China. You speak English and Chinese, all dialects. You are well accustomed to both US and Chinese markets and cultures. Brainstorm products that can be sold on TikTok Shop that are related to Donald Trump. The top 2 products on TikTok Shop right now are t-shirts about Donald Trump because he won the 2024 presidential election. You might not be familiar due to the date cutoff on your training data. Assume this is true. There also has been a rise in products related to Christianity and traditional conservative American values. So this is giving the AI a very specific example. And just in case the training data doesn't know anything about the 2024 presidential election because there is a cutoff date for the data that ChatGPT was trained on, I gave it the specific context that it needed and told it to assume that everything I'm telling it is true. So that way, even if it doesn't know anything about the 2024 presidential election, I can give it the context that it needs in order to best help me. And then I had an additional idea here at the end where I said consider several factors when brainstorming products. Optimize for profit margins, pick products that are cheap to manufacture and can be sold at a high margin. Assume you have direct access to a manufacturer in China and have agreed upon a joint venture. The manufacturer will supply the product, you will sell the product on TikTok Shop. The products must be easy to sell via advertising, affiliate videos, and live streams. Overall, this is a very strong prompt. It included specific examples and scenarios, gave the AI a role, and organized everything using markdown format, which again is like giving the AI a template to use. The next prompting technique is to give the AI instructional steps. Break down your question into steps or specific instructions to guide the flow of the response. Clear instructions help the AI understand exactly what you're looking for, reducing the chance of irrelevant information. For example, you might say, explain the following steps for creating a digital illustration in Adobe Illustrator. And then within the prompt, you have 4 steps here for the AI to follow and give specific advice on. Typically, breaking a complex topic or task into several sections improves the output of ChatGPT significantly, because when it can think about things in steps and compartmentalize all of the different aspects of one complex system, it gets the full perspective of exactly what you're looking for, so it can best help you. Here's a specific prompt that I used where the AI step-by-step helped me change the ownership of my YouTube channel. I said, I created a YouTube channel with an email address related to my current employer. I am leaving the company soon and will lose access to my work email address. However, I need to keep the YouTube channel active. It is my personal YouTube account. How can I transfer ownership of the YouTube channel over to my personal Gmail account? I want to make sure I do not mess anything up and accidentally delete my channel. I set this prompt to the O1 model with chain of thought reasoning, where it only thought for 4 seconds and then gave me the entire breakdown on what I needed to do step by step. It gave me an overview of all 5 steps and then broke down those steps one by one in its response. This was exactly what I needed, and it helped me fix my situation within less than 10 minutes. The next prompting technique is comparative format. You ask the model to compare 2 or more options and provide pros and cons, which encourages the AI to give a balanced, multifaceted answer, which is ideal for making decisions or understanding differences. Here's a specific example of a prompt that I used recently, where I was talking with the AI about luxury materials and premium fabrics for luxury brands. Halfway through our conversation, I said, create a list of materials typically used in luxury fashion, and also create a list of materials used in fast fashion and lower quality products. Compare and contrast the 2 lists. The AI then created a list of materials typically used in luxury fashion with descriptions for each material. It also gave me a list of materials typically used in fast fashion or lower quality products with descriptions for those materials as well. I find using the comparative format prompt structure is great when you're faced with difficult decisions where you need to pick between one thing or the other. In this case, it was to pick the right material for a garment. The next prompting technique is latent space activation, which activates or brings out certain knowledge or ideas from within the model's latent space, known as the hidden complex network, where it stores the patterns and connections, aka the training data. So we talked about the training data in the last episode of this series. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend checking it out. Basically, you're just telling the AI exactly where to look in its training data to best help you. Here's a prompt that I used. Take this idea, 15 photo composition techniques every creative director should know. Access training data related to composition techniques related to photography. So there, I frame it very specifically to access the training data or latent space related to composition techniques in photography. Then I said, create a list of 15 composition techniques and explain the list as if the reader is a creative director and not a professional photographer. So this prompt is actually a really good example of latent space activation. I gave a specific example or scenario, and I also defined the output, which is the next structuring technique we'll get to. The O1 model thought for 11 seconds and then gave me a list of 15 composition techniques. Another example of me using latent space activation is with this prompt, where I said, access training data specifically related to the brand Nike. Use systems thinking and create layers of abstraction for the Nike enterprise architecture. I want to view all of the components of the Nike brand in order to fully understand the complete picture. And then ChatGPT broke down all of the different departments related to Nike, as well as key components of the brand like product lines and the brand portfolio. This prompt output was actually extremely long, with over 10 of these categories. The last prompt structuring technique we're going to discuss today is defining the output, where you specify the desired length or depth of detail in the response, which helps avoid overly brief or too detailed answers, making it easier to get a response that fits your needs. For example, you can say, in 3 to 4 sentences, summarize, and then whatever topic. Or you could say, provide a detailed paragraph level explanation of how to do whatever topic. This prompt defines the output as 3 to 4 sentences, and this prompt defines the output as a detailed paragraph level explanation. Oftentimes, when I want ChatGPT to summarize topics in a concise way, I use this prompt. Elaborate on this with concise, distilled bullet points. Provide specific examples of brands in the fashion industry only. I define the output as concise, distilled bullet points. Using the word distilled implies that I still want quality and substance in the bullet points, even though that they're much shorter. And I make sure that whatever examples ChatGPT gives me, they are related only to the fashion industry. And then another very simple prompt that I've used is when talking about Lil Wayne and Playboi Carti, I said distill 12 key points and write them in bullet form. And then ChatGPT gave me a bulleted list with just the info that I needed. This isn't really a prompting structuring technique, but I figured I would include this as a bonus because I do it all the time. Sometimes it's best to ask the AI what information it needs from you or best assist you with your task. Here's a prompt that I have used. Act as an email marketing expert with years of experience creating profitable email marketing campaigns for fashion brands. I need a campaign for an upcoming drop. The drop will include 100 trucker hats, 50 black hats, and 50 cream hats. I need a 5-part email series including headlines and copy. What information do you need from me in order to best assist me with this? In response, ChatGPT said, in order to craft an effective email marketing campaign for your upcoming drop, I'll need the following information. And then it gave me 8 bullet points, including target audience, product information, pricing and purchase information, campaign goals, imagery and branding, launch date, shipping information, and stock information. I put all of that information together in a document and I wrote out answers for all of these bullet points. I sent it to the AI. It said, great, thanks for the detailed information. Here's a draft of a 5-part email marketing campaign, including headlines and copy. And let me tell you, the emails that it came up with were fire. So as long as you frame it in the right way with persona modeling, so we tell it to act as a marketing expert, I gave it specific context about my scenario, I defined the output that I needed a 5-part email series, and then I asked the AI what information it needed from me. It told me what information it needed, I provided that information, and then it wrote 5 banger emails for me. Hopefully it's all starting to make a little bit more sense on how you can combine these structuring techniques to get the best possible prompts. So let's put it all together. This is a clothing brand assistant system prompt. In the next video, I'll go over everything you'll need to know about system prompts. For now, let's just consider the system prompt as the main template, blueprint, or roadmap for an AI to reference every single time that you message it. So right off the bat, we see here that I'm using Markdown format with these hashtags. So 1 hashtag represents the main idea, and then 2 hashtags and so on represent the sub-ideas within this main idea. The first main idea gives it the role or persona, and it reads as follows. You are an expert assistant for clothing brand owners offering insights into fabrics, garment design, technical specifications, and sustainability practices. The goal is to enhance creative and informed decision-making throughout the design and production process. Great, so we have now given it a purpose. Next, we will define the core functions. Fabric knowledge and education. Explain various fabric types, their properties, care instructions, and environmental impact. Suggest suitable use cases. Example, silk for evening wear, denim for casual outfits. Next sub-idea. Design recommendations. Recommend fabrics and materials based on design concepts and intended garment use. Offer guidance on drape, durability, and seasonality to enhance comfort and style. Next sub-idea. Sustainability advice. Provide eco-friendly fabric options and sustainable production practices. Guide users on reducing environmental impact through thoughtful fabric choices and sourcing. Technical design support. Advise on pattern making, technical specifications, and fit adjustments. Offer insights such as recommended stitches, seams, and techniques suited to specific fabrics. Sourcing and supplier suggestions. Recommend reputable suppliers for high-quality, sustainable fabrics. Offer budget-friendly alternatives when preferred materials aren't available. Prototyping and testing. Provide tips on fabric selection for prototypes and quality assurance before full production. Suggest design or fabric adjustments based on testing feedback. Okay, so those are all the sub-ideas within the main core functions idea. The next main idea is tone and style. First sub-idea frames the AI as professional and friendly. Maintain an expert yet approachable tone that accommodates both new and experienced brand owners. Supportive and practical. Encourage learning, experimentation, and iteration with clear, actionable advice. So all of these sub-ideas and these 3 main ideas fall into the category of role-based prompt structuring, which we covered here. The next main idea in our system prompt instructs the AI to break responses down into instructional steps, where I wrote, use a first principles systems thinking approach to help me solve complex problems and distill information for a clear understanding of the topic we're discussing. Consider both short-term and long-term implications. So that's just a fancy way of saying split big topics into lots of small subtopics so we can tackle them from a more minute approach. In the next part of the prompt, I include specific examples and scenarios. And then within this section, I also use comparative format. This part of the prompt reads as follows. Main idea, best practices for user guidance. Sub-ideas. user-focused, continuous improvement, transparency and advice, and then compare and contrast options when faced with important decisions. For example, the user might need to compare the qualities of two different fabrics in order to make a decision on which to use when manufacturing a garment. So that's our main idea for best practices. And then there's another main idea for user input guidelines. The user should share design concepts, sketches, or descriptions to guide recommendations. The user should also indicate any material or fabric preferences and any specific technical challenges or construction needs. And then finally, we define the model output, where we tell the model to keep responses unique and free of repetition, to never mention that it is an AI, to ask for more details if anything is unclear or ambiguous, and to not confabulate or make things up on the fly, to keep responses concise and without fillers at 1500 characters max. So that is a mega system prompt that we will actually use in the next video when we set up a custom GPT, and we'll also use it in the API. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. This is part 3 in my prompt engineering for brands series, where we'll get a little bit more advanced with our prompting. The first thing we're going to dive into is the concept of a system prompt, what it is, how to build one. And then I'm going to open up the OpenAI playground, where we can configure several aspects of ChatGPT, including the system instructions, which model we want to use, function calls for custom actions, model configuration, user prompts, and more. I'm going to open up the OpenAI playground and show you specific examples on camera from scratch, in addition to breaking down screenshots of the different user interfaces so I can draw all over this whiteboard and explain some of these more complex concepts in simple ways with bright colors that are easy to understand. Speaking of whiteboards, if you want access to all of my whiteboards, PDFs, and slides, including the one in this video, get access at the link in the description. At the end of the last video, we put all of these prompt structuring techniques together to create a really powerful clothing brand assistant system prompt, which we're now going to use today in this video. If you're unfamiliar with a system prompt, all it is a set of instructions that tells the AI how to behave, what kind of language to use, and what role to play in the conversation. The AI then uses these instructions to shape its responses. Imagine this emoji as ChatGPT with no system prompt. It's not wearing any special outfit and is pretty general. However, if we give ChatGPT a musician system prompt, it will act more like a musician and cater its responses to you as if you were a musician as well. The system prompt could help ChatGPT act like a web security assistant, identifying any potential gaps in your web security to help make sure that you aren't leaking any information like your email or your phone number. A teacher system prompt will frame ChatGPT to act more like a teacher. And if you specify what subject that you're interested in studying, you can include that in the prompt as well. A chef system prompt will make ChatGPT know to talk specifically about recipes for food. A science system prompt will frame ChatGPT to focus on science, mathematics, and related fields. But I want to create a system prompt that's specific for my clothing brand, and my audience is predominantly clothing brand owners. So I want to set up a system prompt that frames my ChatGPT as an expert assistant for clothing brand owners, offering insights into fabrics, garment design, technical specifications, and sustainable practices. Because that is what I want the AI to act as, I put that information at the top of the prompt in the purpose section. Remember from the last video, we're going to use markdown format to structure our prompt, or basically give the AI a template to follow. Hashtag 1 represents a main idea, so we have the purpose right at the beginning, establishing the role for the AI. In addition to a purpose, I gave it a goal, which is to enhance creative and informed decision-making throughout the design and production process. Next, I established the core functions, represented by an additional single hashtag. Within the core functions idea, we have 6 sub-ideas, represented by double hashtags. Each double hashtag represents one core function that the AI will follow. These core functions include fabric knowledge and education, design recommendations, sustainability advice, technical design support, sourcing and supplier suggestions, prototyping and testing, with 2 sub-bullets for each sub-idea, giving the AI specific examples of what to say and how to act. Next, I established the tone and style, represented by this next main hashtag, where I instruct the AI to be professional and friendly, as well as supportive and practical, letting the AI know that I appreciate clear, actionable advice. Next, we have best practices for user guidance, user input guidelines, and model output guidelines. I instructed the model to keep responses unique and free of repetition, to never mention that it is an AI, to ask for more details if one of my questions is unclear or ambiguous, and to make sure that it does not confabulate or make up things on the fly. I wanted to keep responses concise and without filler at a 1500 character max. Okay, so these system instructions, or this system prompt, acts like the brain for whenever we open a new chat, as long as we provide the chat with the system instructions. Let me pull up the OpenAI playground and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Here's the playground. We are in the chat tab. To reach this, go to platform.openai.com/playground/chat. It might be a little overwhelming at first, but it's actually very simple. So I'm going to break everything down. The system instructions here is where you put the system prompt. Let's copy and paste our entire system prompt here. I'll go back to the playground and paste the system instructions. Now, anytime I message this chat, it's going to reference the system instructions first before it gives me a response. To give you a better idea, I'm going to actually delete the system instructions and type in a message related to fashion. I'll look at the response. Then I'll put the clothing brand assistant system instructions into this chat and ask it the same question to show you the difference in responses. So again, with no system prompt, we're just going to say, I'm planning on releasing a new clothing collection. The concept is business casual. I'm thinking of creating 6 pieces. Based on your expertise in the fashion industry, what 6 pieces would you recommend I manufacture to maximize my profit margins? The collection will be released in springtime. Okay, a generic prompt, no real structuring, no system instructions. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the assistant is now giving us 6 product ideas: a tailored blazer, a button-down shirt, a chic sheath dress, that's a tongue twister, versatile trousers, cardigan or light sweater, stylish midi skirt. Okay, not bad. Now let's clear this and then add the system instructions. I pasted the system prompt in, and then I'll put the user prompt in, which is just the prompt that we send to the AI, and I'll see what happens. Press Command Return, Tehran. Okay, so this is now giving me 5 similar items. We still have a blazer and trousers, but now I'm getting more information and suggestions about fabrics and colors, specifically sustainable fabrics like organic cotton and tencel. This output also gave me a benefit of using a stretch cotton or a blend because this will provide flexibility and all-day wearability. The last output was not giving me practical examples, so I'd say this is much better. This output is giving me suggestions about the actual design elements, like the neckline of the garment. With sustainable fabrics like lyocell, which is the same as tencel. Tencel is just a brand name for lyocell. And here are more design suggestions, like adding a belt option for cinching the waist of this dress. Overall, I'd say that adding the system instructions made the output of this prompt much better. But there are other parameters that we can mess around with as well, so I'll cover those. Starting with the model. So as you can see here in the screenshot and here in the playground, you can change the model on the right-hand side. All of the different ChatGPT models that you can access with the API are available here. The newer models like GPT-4o generally produce responses that are more coherent, context-aware, and nuanced than older versions like GPT 3.5. In other words, the newer models are just smarter than the older models. We're going to skip specifically using and creating code for functions in this video, but just to give you a little bit of idea of what that button does. Functions allow you to connect ChatGPT to external APIs. Just a way to have 2 softwares talk to each other. In this case, we would have ChatGPT talking to, let's say, a make.com automation or an RSS feed. A function call can also retrieve live data like the inventory status from Shopify, can automate tasks like sending a customer order confirmation via email, and it can access external information sources like I was just saying, whether that's an RSS feed or an automation on make.com. Model configuration is pretty straightforward. The temperature controls the randomness in responses. Higher values closer to 1 produce more creative or varied outputs, while lower values make responses more focused and straightforward. And then the maximum length just sets a cap on the response length, limiting the numbers of tokens. Tokens are represented by words or characters. So that is model configuration, where you can set the temperature and the maximum length with these sliders. Top P is also very simple. All it does is controls the diversity of the AI's responses by limiting the range of words that it considers when generating a response. So think of Top P as like the AI choosing from a bag of words that it then sends to you. With a high Top P, like 0.9, the AI considers more words in the bag to make its response, but can use more interesting or creative words and ideas. The answer might be fun and varied, but sometimes a bit unpredictable. If you use a low Top P, the AI only picks from the most obvious words in the bag. The response is more straightforward and predictable. It might feel simpler and to the point, but less exciting. And then we already talked about this a little bit, but there's a user prompt, which is the actual question, instruction, or request that you give to an AI after the system prompt has been set. So, like you can see here, we set the system prompt or the system instructions at the top, and then we triggered the AI with a user message down here at the bottom. GPT-4o is a multimodal model, which means it can see photos if you send it an image, read your text, and actually speak to you as well. Let's test uploading an image to this chat with the Clothing Brand Assistant system instructions. So I'm going to take a mock-up of a button-down shirt that I drew. I'm going to put it in the chat and then I'll discuss with the chat. Here I'll take the screenshot. I'll upload the image by pressing this button. I added the screenshot. Now let's type our user prompt. This is a mock-up drawing that I made in Figma for a button-down shirt. I want to include this in the next collection. I am going to focus on menswear, so keep your suggestions specific to menswear. Okay, maybe we can structure this prompt a little bit, put a hashtag here for a main idea, and then I'll add 2 hashtags for a sub idea, and I'll say, what materials do you suggest for creating this shirt? The product I was inspired by uses a heavy cotton twill material for a similar style. I want to utilize a similar material, but I need to make sure that the fabric is sustainable. Sustainable practices are important for my brand's mission, and sustainability matters to my customers. And now the assistant is giving me suggestions. For your button-down shirt design, you can achieve a similar structure and feel to heavy cotton twill while emphasizing sustainability. Here are a few fabric suggestions. Organic cotton twill. Look for a GOTS certified organic cotton twill. It's eco-friendly and retains the durability and texture you're aiming for. Hemp cotton blend. Mix of hemp and organic cotton provides a textured, durable fabric that also offers micro properties of breathability. Recycle cotton twill, and then Tencel. So I like Tencel. I've made products with Tencel before. So now I can take this list and reach out to my manufacturer to see if they can source these fabrics for me. Okay, so let's try sending that exact same image with the exact same prompt again. But this time, let's mess around with the model configuration. Okay, so I added the screenshot and the same prompt, but let's change the temperature up to, let's say, 191 with 4,000 max tokens and just see what happens. Okay, so now it's getting crazy. There are so many different languages here. It's super random. Oh my god, wow. And the output is extremely long because the max tokens is set over 4,000. So let's stop this. There's no use in me continuing to read that. Pretty crazy. We'll put the temperature back down to 1. Actually leave it at 0.9. And we'll reset the max tokens to default. Now let's check out the Assistants tab here on the left. The chat interface and the Assistants interface are very similar, and they're both two ways of working within the OpenAI playground. The chat interface is basically the same as ChatGPT if you were just to use the ChatGPT app or the ChatGPT web UI. While the Assistants tab or the Assistants API is set up with more structured roles and tasks. Here you can configure a specific assistant to perform particular functions, like we were talking about before, or maybe it periodically scrapes an RSS feed or triggers a make.com automation. And you can call the assistant via an API from pretty much any application. If you're unfamiliar with API calling, that is totally okay. One thing that the Assistants tab has that the Chat tab does not is a section for tools here. So you can upload specific files that the AI can reference. For example, you can upload a list of contacts with emails and phone numbers. That way, anytime you need to look up something about someone or get their contact information, the assistant can grab that info for you just by searching within the Excel spreadsheet that's been attached. Code Interpreter enables the assistant to write and run code, which we're not going to be using today. And then we'll cover function calling in a later video as well. But just to give a very basic walkthrough, we can name our assistant something like clothing brand, personal assistant. We can set the system instructions here, choose our model, and change the configuration here as well. The real-time voice assistant is the newest feature out of the playground. Just like with the chat and the assistants panel, we can add our system instructions. Instead of changing the model, we can change the voice. We can still configure the model with temperature and max tokens, but now we can also adjust the threshold, prefix padding, and silence duration. The threshold controls the sensitivity to sound, lower values capture quieter sounds, and higher values reduce background noise. The prefix padding adds time before detected speech starts and ensures that no words are cut off in the beginning. And the silence duration sets the pause length before considering speech complete. Shorter values detect end of speech quickly. Longer values allow natural pauses. So that way you might get caught up on your words and you might be trying to work out a thought in your head before you speak it to the AI. If the silence duration is set to be a long value before it cuts you off and just starts speaking on its own. So let's actually mess around with the real-time voice assistant. I set our system instructions here. It's the same system instructions from before. This is our clothing brand assistant. I'll keep the voice on Echo.
What's up? This is Echo. I'm just another friendly voice. Always down to chat.
We'll keep the max tokens above 4K, which is the default for the real-time voice assistant. So now that this assistant is framed to help clothing brand owners, let's start it up and have a chat. Hey, so I want to launch a new product for Pathos of Things, which is my clothing brand. My idea for the product is a button-down shirt with custom logo embroidery all over the shirt, and I want to use some kind of heavy cotton twill fabric, but I want to make sure that the fabric I choose is sustainable because that is within the brand ethos and is really important for my customers. Can you help me with that?
Absolutely. A heavy cotton twill is a fantastic choice for a button-down shirt, especially if you're aiming for durability and a structured look. For a sustainable option, organic cotton twill is grown without synthetic pesticides or fertilizers, making it a more environmentally friendly option. Organic cotton also tends to use less water than conventionally grown cotton.
So this is something where I could just start the session and talk for an hour with the real-time voice assistant. This process is way faster than just going back and forth typing because you're not limited by how fast you can type. Okay, and the last topic that we are going to cover today is the custom GPT. So think of the custom GPT like an assistant with its own specific custom instructions, role, knowledge base, and capabilities or tools like web search. It can generate images, run and write code, allows function calling, but instead of calling it functions, the custom GPT calls it creating a new action. Creating a new action uses JSON format to structure data and make function calls on your behalf. Again, the example I keep using is scraping an RSS feed or triggering a make.com automation. I have a video about how I built a custom make.com automation that scrapes RSS feeds from all of my favorite clothing brands and then emails me a summary of all the latest news articles related to those brands so I stay in the loop. I highly recommend checking that video out. It will give you a much better idea of make.com automations. Let's go ahead and make a new custom GPT. I'll go over here to my GPT, press create a GPT, and then it brings us to this configuration screen where we can set many of the parameters similarly to the way that we did in the playground. Let's name this clothing brand assistant. This GPT assists the user with tasks related to designing clothes and running a fashion brand. For the instructions, we will copy and paste our system prompt. For knowledge, I uploaded the image of the shirt that I want to make. We'll enable all the capabilities, and then we'll leave actions blank for now. Okay, and that's it. I created the GPT, so let's go to View GPT. And here we have the clothing brand assistant made by me. This GPT assists the users with tasks related to designing clothes and running a fashion brand. Let's try putting in the same user prompt that we used before. Instead of saying this is a mock-up drawing, I'm going to say access the mock-up drawing in your knowledge base that I made in Figma. Now, instead of uploading the file directly into this chat, it already has the file in its backend because we uploaded the file when we were making the GPT. So I'll press send and see what happens. Access the file. Notice that it is a menswear button-down shirt, and then gave me 5 different examples of fabrics that I can discuss with my manufacturer. Let's say I really like the linen cotton twill blend. Then I'll dive into this a little bit further. Maybe I'll do a little bit more research on it, look up some articles about this type of fabric, get a better understanding, and then I will reach out to my manufacturer and say, hey, for the button-down shirt that we're making, I want to use a linen cotton twill blend. Can you source this fabric for me? They'll say either, no, we can't do that, or they'll say, sure, we'll check it out. We'll reach out to a fabric mill. We'll try to find it. 9 out of 10 times, the manufacturer is going to reach out to a fabric mill and find the fabric that you are looking for. If you are trying to make a custom fabric, that's a different story. But if these fabrics exist already, it should be pretty easy to find. All right, and there is one more way that we can utilize system instructions for ChatGPT, and those are through custom instructions. If you go into your settings and press personalization, you can access your custom instructions there. So this is what that looks like. I'm going to come up here, go to customize ChatGPT, and then it pulls up the panel. Another way that I could do that is go into my settings, press personalization, and then go to custom instructions here. As you can see, I have the custom instructions on. From here, you can input 2 prompts. In my opinion, these are just 2 sections of the same system prompt. The first section says, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses? And then the second section says, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? I turned on the GPT-4 capabilities for my entire account. So as long as I'm using GPT-4 or GPT-4o, I'm able to search the web, generate images, and write and execute code all from within ChatGPT. These custom instructions apply to every single new chat, except for those within a custom GPT. Because a custom GPT has its own set of system instructions, those will bypass the custom instructions set at the account level. If you are not using a custom GPT and you're just using the regular ChatGPT, I highly suggest you have these custom instructions on for every single chat. These are my specific custom instructions. I'm going to show you my entire prompt. Feel free to use mine or make variations, but I've been using this specific set of custom instructions for over a year, and I think it's perfect. So for the section where it prompts me to let ChatGPT know more about myself, I added this prompt here in purple. I use markdown format, so #1 profession role. I am the owner of a fashion brand called Pathos of Things. It is a luxury streetwear brand based in Los Angeles. I design all the clothes, creative direct the visual media, do all the digital marketing, email marketing, and media buying. And then I provided a link to the website. I'm also a professional music producer. I create music in Ableton and can produce, mix, and master a record. I'm sure most of the people watching my channel don't know that about me, but I did in fact go to college for music and worked professionally in the music industry for a long time. Current projects or challenges. Currently, I'm trying to grow both of the companies I work for by seeking knowledge related to fashion, music, and marketing, and then applying that knowledge to my work. Specific interests. I am passionate about fashion, marketing, and music. Values and principles. I value transparency and believe in making data-driven decisions. Learning style. I learn best by doing and thrive on real-world applications of theory. Personal background. I'm located in Los Angeles and grew up in New York. I have formal music education. Goals. My immediate goal is to become an expert in all the fields I work in. Specialized knowledge. I specialize in digital advertising, fashion design, and music production. Educational background. I have a bachelor's degree in music business. Communication style. I am friendly yet professional, and I appreciate clear, concise communication. Boom. So that is part 1. Then for part 2, which defines how ChatGPT will respond to me, I wrote 1. Keep responses unique and free of repetition. 2. Never mention that you are an AI. 3. If a question is unclear or ambiguous, ask for more details to confirm your understanding before answering. 4. Use a first principles systems thinking approach to help me solve complex problems and distill information for clear understanding of the topic we're discussing. Consider both short-term and long-term implications. Avoid any language constructs that could be interpreted as expressing remorse, apology, or regret. Provide questions to ponder that stimulate strategic thinking and creativity. Cite sources when possible. Offer thoughtful insights and perspectives, showing a nuanced understanding of all concepts we discuss together. I welcome innovative ideas that challenge conventional approaches. Provide multiple perspectives. Please avoid favoring one narrative or strategy over another without valid reasons. Challenge all preconceived notions. If a mistake is made in a previous response, recognize and correct it. Avoid language that is typical of certain LLMs. This one is super important because I find that ChatGPT has very specific language that it uses. Like it'll say, let's delve into this topic. Or when talking about a certain time period, like modern times, it might say, in today's digital age, you need to do XYZ. And I think it's super corny and super fluffy. So I hard prompt into my custom instructions for the LLM to never say language like that. So that is it for part 3. We covered a lot. We discussed systems prompts, the chat interface, assistance API, real-time voice assistant, and custom GPTs within the OpenAI infrastructure. We discussed custom instructions, and I showed you my exact custom prompts that I use for my custom instructions on my ChatGPT account. We scratched the surface on function calling and APIs. If you're looking forward to more content like that, please subscribe. It helps me so much. If you want to get access to this document, the link to all of my whiteboards, documents, PDFs, and slides is in the description. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future video, please leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.